All right, guys, it's Ozzy Grimm with the Gamers Grimm. Let's talk about Starfield. Let me start by saying I like the game. I have enjoyed my time on the game. I think that the game is fun. I think a lot of the hate that it's received is unwarranted, and that's not me being a Bethesda fanboy. That's just the reality. But overall, it's a relatively good game, and I'm going to give it a rating of 7.5 out of 10. It could be a lot better. If I could describe the game in a single word, that word would be almost. Every aspect of the game is almost good, and in some cases, almost great.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
Okay, so let's go into the good. Shipbuilding, good. Ship combat is good. Outposts are okay. The combat is okay. The POIs are good, but there's a glaring problem which we'll get into when we get to the bad. It looks like a Bethesda game. Everybody says the graphics are dated. To a degree, I agree with that, but it's a Bethesda game. I don't have super high expectations with the creation engine, and I don't have any super high expectations when it comes to bugs and Bethesda. I can't imagine that in the last 30 years they suddenly got better at making less buggy games. It's up until Starfield was a bit of the charm that came with Bethesda games, but I think Fallout 76 and the horrendous problems that that game had made it to where the bugs were no longer charming. So keeping that in mind, I can recommend this game. If you go into it ready to play an RPG in space that's familiar to you, has Bethesda mechanics, Bethesda combat, and some of the Bethesda storytelling, you will enjoy yourself. So let's talk about the most glaring issue with the game. The one issue that I can say for certain is the cause of most of the problems. Most people think that the game is empty, that it's shallow, and that has nothing going on. And I suppose that that's one way you could look at it. But the reality is the game is filled with lots of stuff. There's lots of POIs. There's lots of stories. There's lots of places to visit. The problem is there's no way to know how to get to them. You have to go through like 5 or 6 loading screens just to even find out if there's anything worth doing on any of the planets in any planetary system. And that is the glaring issue with the game. Every single major complaint that I've seen about the game comes back to that. It lacks a reasonable carrot on a stick. And Bethesda basically ported one for one their normal questing system from other titles such as Elder Scrolls and Fallout directly into this. But unfortunately, the game mechanically doesn't work to accommodate that. Usually, when you go from one place to another in another Elder Scrolls, like in the Elder Scrolls or Fallout, there's many, many things that you can find and explore along the way. One of the joys of playing Fallout and the Elder Scrolls is, when you have to walk from one place to the next, you can just be completely distracted. Fallout is notorious for this. You're supposed to be finding your dad or finding your son, and you end up spending, 14 hours, building your settlement and running down, raiders and figuring out what's going on at the fight club and all these other things that you can do in between those two things. And Starfield simply lacks that. It has no carrot on a stick. You just fly from one blue dot on the map to the next blue dot on the map, which inevitably makes the entire game feel empty and pointless. And so I completely agree with the assessment that it feels empty, but it certainly isn't empty. So the question is how do we fix this problem? And the reality is that this could be corrected very easily, even by a modder. It'd probably take less than a week to correct the issue with finding things to do in Starfield. They put too much emphasis on the player exploring and not enough emphasis on to draw them into the content. The thing that I would suggest doing is taking and placing a mission board in the cockpit of every single ship in the game. And the way these mission boards would work is that every time you grav jump into a system, that mission board updates and populates that system with all of the Radiant quests. Bounties, surveys, pirate encounters, as well as it gives you hints on the various quests that may be available on planets for you to explore. What really needs to happen is that when the map is open, you can see all the stuff that you can do in a given system. And that's really the easiest fix that you can do. Because it already does that. It already populates each system with various encounters and each planet with various POIs. So you may as well do it while we're in the ship. And then if the player decides to engage with that content or move on to the next system, they're allowed to. And that would be like the quickest, easiest fix. Because I've found a lot of really interesting and fun stories to play in this game, but I'm kind of boomer brained, so I gotta go slow through everything. And so I'd imagine that if you're in the middle of a mainline quest, you're not interested in dropping in and seeing if there's anything to do, and not flying to the different icons that you might see on a planet. So what they really need to do is make every system map have all sorts of icons on it and all sorts of interesting things for a person to do, because all that stuff is there. It's just not noticeable. You have to fly down to the surface of a planet. You have to open up the star map and look and see if there's an encounter, and maybe fly over and do it. They need to start drawing people into that content. I know that that's kind of a limp way of doing it, but it's an easy fix to really flesh out the content so people will spend more time engaging with all the Radiant content that's available in the game. So my second suggestion is the least easy of the two suggestions. The main quest and the Starborn powers are just absolutely terrible, boring, and tedious. Starborn powers are okay, they can be fun. I've enjoyed using them every once in a while, but for the most part, it's just a Radiant quest that's been repeatable. And you just go to the same temple over and over again, and that just stinks. If I could suggest anything, is take the Starborn powers and roll it into the New Game Plus system. And by that I mean make it to where each power that you get, you have to go to an alternate universe to learn it. And you don't have to do the entire New Game Plus playthrough each time. But you go there and you see this alternate reality and you learn a new Starborn power while you're in that universe, and then you return to your home universe. That's the main reason I've stayed away from the New Game Plus. It's really just an artificial inflation of the game time, and it would be way more interesting to roll the Starborn powers system into that and make it to where you can come back to your home universe. That's a thing that couldn't be fixed real easily. That's a major quest line and a major feature. But if I'm being honest, New Game Plus is not going to hold this game down for a long period of time. So it would just be better if that became the main quest line. I would even be interested in doing a second playthrough just so I could do that. That would be more fun. It would make the powers more interesting and more of an achievement rather than just going to this one temple and learning, your powers until you get all of them and then killing Starborn to power him up. But that's sort of a half-assed suggestion. They just need to fix the way you go about getting your Starborn powers. It's one of the most boring quest lines I think I've ever played in a video game. It's just terrible. So other than that, there really isn't much else that can be said about the game. It needs improvement. I hope they continue to support the game. I hope to see some of the storylines really start to grow from here. I'm comfortable with the way the story played out in the game. Ultimately, at least as far as like the factions and the story is concerned, I treat this the same way I would treat the first couple of chapters of a good book. I don't have a huge expectation for grandiose and amazing things right away. I just wanted to be introduced to the universe and the players that are involved in it, and they did a good job of that. So hopefully they continue to support the game and we see the story expand from there. So that was really just my stupid opinion on the game. Hopefully you guys agree with some of the stuff that I said, and maybe we'll share this with some people. And yeah, other than that, I really can't think of anything else to say. So it's been Ozzy Grimm with the Gamers Grimm.